Hello everybody, I'm Casey, and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk About. Today, let's talk about the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic episode, On Your Marks. Sorry it's taken me so long to get back into the My Little Pony groove, but I think that short hiatus took us all by surprise. And, in all honesty, I haven't had much to say about Season 6 so far. The Gift of Maud Pie was funny and endearing, but that's about it. And the Crystalling, while not necessarily a bad episode, I think it was the weakest of the season premieres, but maybe we'll talk about that another time. For now, let's dive into On Your Marks. This episode gives us our first post-Cutie Mark Crusader story. They're ready to help others with their Cutie Mark problems. Except in a small town like Ponyville, they're having trouble finding ponies with a Cutie Mark problem. And what problems they do manage to find, they can solve pretty quickly. So the episode instead focuses on the CMC, especially Apple Bloom, figuring out what to do now, which is a direction I absolutely loved. Let's start with the CMC in general, and then we'll go over Apple Bloom specifically. I've mentioned in previous videos how much I like that this show is willing to change its formula, have characters complete arcs and begin new journeys, because that's much more true to life. There's obviously a lot more to explore after you achieve a goal in life. There are still stories to be told and conflicts to be resolved. What do you do now that you've achieved what you've always wanted? How do you deal with the changes that brings? What happens after Happily Ever After? Princess Twilight Sparkle addressed this by showing the main six struggling with how much Twilight's new titles and responsibilities have changed her life. After trying to help out many ponies who really don't need it, the CMC realized how much their new titles really don't change their lives. At least not on a day-to-day basis. So they decided to fill their time with other activities. After Crusaders of the Lost Mark, I heard some people complain that the Crusaders getting similar cutie marks that bonded them together would take away their individuality, which I personally don't agree with, and this episode shows why. Yes, they get their cutie marks in something they do best together, but their individual talents aren't going anywhere. They're just as enthusiastic at those things now as they were before they got their marks. You can be skilled and passionate at more than one thing, you know. Sweetie Belle and Scootaloo even want to start new hobbies, which was a touch I really liked, off exploring options and trying new things. Except for Apple Bloom. Another complaint I've heard is that Apple Bloom's main motivation since the beginning has been trying to get her cutie mark. As far as her focused episodes go, she's never really had another conflict. Well, guess what else gets addressed in this episode? The CMC have gone through a lot of different conflicts together, and even Sweetie Belle and Scootaloo had focused episodes and conflicts outside of trying to get their cutie marks. Apple Bloom has not. Sure, she's had a couple of episodes focused around her family, but her main motivation as a character since the beginning has always been to get her cutie mark. So she struggles the most with the question of what next. The show shows how empty she feels without the goal of earning her cutie mark in mind, not helped by the fact that her friends know exactly what they want to do with their time now. So on top of uncertainty, Apple Bloom begins to feel lonely because she thinks that she can't connect with her friends anymore. And who can't relate to that? A lot of us have had times of uncertainty in what to do going forward, and this is shown very well in this season's first song. Nice to see Michelle Creer get a solo. Again, these feelings are something rarely touched on in television, particularly animated television, but it's something I feel is important to address. Not just the feeling of being lost, but finally finding out what the next step is, which Apple Bloom does find in the form of Tender Taps. Tender Taps was an adorable little cult, and his love of dancing comes with some fun references to classic musicals. Did anyone notice this one? But Apple Bloom is so depressed about being left behind, she doesn't notice Tender Tap's lack of a cutie mark. She gets so lonely that once Sweetie Belle and Scootaloo come back, she's in the middle of a main character meltdown. Man, it's been a while since we had one of those. How many does that make? But before she can go full lesson 0 on their no longer blank flanks, they figure out how to help Tender Taps. The way they help Tender Taps get over stage fright is another reason why I don't think the CMC having similar cutie marks takes away their individuality, because they help him out with all of their talents and hobbies put together to help one cause. They work so well as a team because they're so different, and that gives them each something unique to contribute. Now doesn't that sound familiar? It's all those different skills and interests and the fact that they spend time apart focusing on them that will help them become better ponies. This episode actually wraps up with a few morals, but all anybody seemed to notice about the last couple of minutes is how close Tender Taps and Apple Bloom are standing next to each other. Because as Silverquill observed,
"If a boy and a girl work together, look at each other, or breathe the same air, it must be love."
Sometimes it doesn't even have to be a boy and a girl. Overall, can we just agree that this is the best episode of the season so far? I mean, wow, this is not what I expected from our first CMC 2.0 adventure, but it was everything I could have wanted. While it may not be the funniest or most expressive episode, it makes up for it with wonderful morals and a great story that not a lot of shows are willing to tell in favor of being very episodic. Over the past couple of years, this show has allowed its characters and story to change and, more importantly, grow. Something like this can alienate some viewers, and while I understand having a very basic formula is easier for a show for many reasons, and while this does work for some shows, I personally believe that a show will leave a greater impact if it's willing to let things change and grow over time. If it's willing to let characters go through tougher and more relatable challenges, which will help them become stronger and go on more exciting adventures, which will make you root for them more when they do succeed. So I'm glad that DHX, and Hasbro of all people, recognize that. With this episode, I think we are back on track with the high quality episodes that were the norm in Season 5. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.